Hey you guys, it's Steve of my house bidding you welcome and welcome back to another episode of my favorite games, except it's not one of my favorite games, so if I make a video for this review series and it's not one of my favorite games, I'm just going to be calling it like Today I Beat or this game or something like that. I'll figure out something. But it is for this game that I beat not too long ago, maybe a couple days ago. It is Ratchet and Clank, Tools of Destruction, and this is a really cool game. It is... I'm not sure what game in the series it is. Might be the 4th or 5th game in the Ratchet and Clank series. It's one of them. I know there are... it'll be like the 5th or 6th actually. There are a lot of Ratchet and Clank games. And they all follow the same basic kind of formula. You play as Ratchet, who is this character on the front. He is an alien character called a Lombax. You journey around the universe with this robot here named Clank. He has a lot of cool gadgets and stuff. And you go on adventures. Each game has a different adventure, and this one is probably my favorite in the series. All of the series are third-person action shoot 'em ups, I guess. I mean, it's not a shoot 'em up in the way you would usually think of a shoot 'em up, like a spaceship shooter or something, but it could definitely be called a shoot 'em up because there are a lot of guns and you're always shooting stuff. So yeah, it's a shoot 'em up. And the real appeal of this game is the kind of quirky humor of it. There are a lot of cutscenes where the characters interact with each other to do cutscene stuff. They talk about the mission and shit. But it's all very joking, and even when a character tries to be serious, he'll bonk his head on something accidentally. It's very quirky humor, and it's very good. This character here's name is Captain Quark. He's probably my favorite character in the whole series. He's a superhero who's not very super. He's got delusions of grandeur. He thinks he's a lot more important than he really is, and even though he doesn't really do a whole lot in the game, he always takes credit for the stuff you're doing. It's pretty funny. So when you save the universe at the end, Captain Quark always takes he always takes what's the word? He takes credit for it pretty much, which is pretty funny. You know, that's how he's become this big superhero, because everyone's thinking that he's doing all this heroic stuff when it's really your character. And there are a lot of really cool guns in this, a lot of really weird stuff, you can shoot lasers and goops, blobs, stuff like that. There's a gadget that turns your enemies into little robotic penguins that die in one hit. Yeah, there are turret ones, there are there's a machine gun one, there's a fire one, there's one that shoots out shrapnel, there are shotguns. Yeah, there are sniper rifles, rockets, any kind of weapon you could imagine. It's probably in one of the Ratchet and Clank series, and they all start off pretty good, but as the game progresses, some of the weapons become really useless, like the machine gun weapon. When you fully upgrade it, all of the weapons are upgradable up to level 5, and then you can further upgrade them by improving various aspects of them by allocating points to them and whatnot. But some of the weapons after they get to level 5, they're just not very good after that. Later on in the game, the machine gun, it was really good early on in the game, and I leveled it up to its max, and then later on in the game, I empty every piece of ammo I have into one enemy, and it still won't be dead. So that's kind of sucky, but the game is constantly giving you currency, which is bolts, to buy more weapons and upgrade weapons. So you'll never be at a point where you have a weapon that isn't powerful enough to take out an enemy. You'll just have to switch them up, kind of have to play with different weapons, see what fits for a certain situation. And different enemies take damage depending on the weapon. So if it's an electrified enemy, obviously an electric whip isn't going to hurt it. So you have to use a fire-based weapon or something, which is pretty cool. I like that. All of the locations in the game are very varied and cool. You have a jungle level, a lava level, have a level where you're skateboarding everywhere, which is really cool. Not really skateboarding, grinding on pipes and stuff. It's pretty fun. yeah, all of the games in the Ratchet and Clank series do a really good job of keeping it fresh. And it's not all just running and gunning. There are sections of the game where you have to do like a kind of a physics puzzle. Kind of. It's like you have to use the PS3 controller and its 6-axis capabilities to move a ball around a board and conduct electricity to certain places, it's interesting. It's not the most fun, and it can be a little bit frustrating if you fail the same thing over and over. But it's interesting, you know. It's a nice little distraction from the main game. You can also do these sections where like you're flying around. You can do these sections where you're Clank, the little robot guy, and you can go through these sections where you find these like these things here. They're called the Zoni, and like they attack enemies for Clank. It's pretty cool. And the story's pretty good too. The story's pretty alright. The story is about... The character isn't on the back, is he? Where is he? The character isn't on the cover, but the character's name is Tachyon, and he's like the big main baddie of the game. He comes through this like wormhole and says that he's the one that's responsible for killing every Lombax except for this one, because Ratchet is the last of his like alien race, I guess. And so throughout the game you're constantly getting clues as to what happened to the Lombaxes, how they got wiped out, and you know, it's all very good. As you progress through the story, you unlock more clues and stuff, and you eventually figure it out. And it eventually just it tells you pretty much at the end of the game, but you'll figure it out before then. And, like, there's this huge device called the Dimensionator that creates wormholes and such, and that's a pretty cool thing. The enemy gets his hands on it, and like you have to steal it from one enemy, and then another enemy will steal it. There are a lot of enemies in this game. Yeah, and that will bring me to the bosses. There are quite a few bosses in this game. There are like mini bosses that you kill to get like a special power-up thing that you have to trade to a guy to get further on in the game. And you know, that's like main story stuff. You don't have to go out of your way to do that. It's stuff you're already doing on the level. Well, there are a few main bosses. The ones I can remember were there was a big enemy who was in an even bigger robot, and he was like an industrial robot, and he would fire like bolts at you, and that was pretty fun. Like you have to grind on this pipe to escape him, and then you have this like big showdown with him. There was a pirate boss who you're constantly chasing throughout the game, and it ends in a big showdown. Then at the end you fight Tachyon himself, who is like this he's like a little twerp, but he's in a big machine, so he's tough. You know, he's using the Dimensionator to like throw wormholes at you and stuff. And eventually you both get sucked into a wormhole and you have this final epic showdown, and yeah, there's a lot of epic showdowns in this, and that's pretty cool. It's a fun game. Controls are really tight. Controls are crazy good in this game. I did notice one glitch as I was smacking my lips in this entire game. I beat the mechanized boss, the one who was in like a heavy machinery for industrial purposes, and it took me like 5 tries to try and beat him, and when I eventually beat him I was like, yeah, finally did it. And then I tried to fly away to the next planet where the clue had sent me, and the game crashed and I had to redo the boss fight. And I was like, that sucked. But that was okay because, you know, overall it was an enjoyable experience, and I definitely recommend it. I wouldn't say you have to play the other games in the Ratchet and Clank series to enjoy this one, but, you know, it doesn't hurt. All of the Ratchet and Clank games are very easily available. They're all incredibly cheap. And you can get, like, the HD trilogy on the PS3, PS Vita. So they're not hard to find at all. You don't, like, have to have a PlayStation 2 or anything to play them. If you have a PS3 or a Vita, you're going to be fine. And they remade the first one for the PS4, so you can play that one too, and yeah, there are definitely a lot of games to choose from. They're all pretty good, so yeah, check this game out. It is Ratchet and Clank Tools of Destruction. It is a game I beat.